Ready, right, quick, march.
Hi.
All right, hello and welcome to our player spotlight series for the Guelph Pipe Band midsection. And pretty excited to have our midsection here today, our grade 3 midsection specifically. And we're going to talk a little bit about the video that you just saw. And we're going to be premiering the medley video as well after this discussion. And I wanted to get the midsection in on a call with me and just discuss about how we've kept things going the last several months. You know, the COVID lockdown happened in March. And since then, we haven't been able to have any sort of regular band practices. And just wanted to chat about how we did what I think is quite an exceptional job keeping things going, in particular in the midsection. And, finding out, how did we handle not being able to meet in person. And we've got Kate and Ashlyn, Megan and Jamie and Liam and Marin here, and we'll chat a little bit about that. So I'll kind of throw things to Kate to start. And playing in a midsection, you guys aren't solo players. I mean, there is midsection solos, but generally, especially in a pipe band, like it's a group effort, and everyone's part needs to fit together with everything else. And having the context of the piping and the snare drumming, and not just that, but all of the other midsection parts around it is so important to being able to sort of operate as a unit. You guys are a cohesive unit. And how did you overcome the challenge of not being able to play together in person? What sort of things happened?
Well, yeah, you're exactly right, Tyler. It's like we play one part all together. We don't sort of each have a part that stands alone. It's not a solo instrument. So like I liken it to like a handbell choir or a piano that only has 7 notes on it, except one person plays each note. So it means that, if you're playing anything, it's completely dependent on what everybody else is doing. And that's not even talking about any of the choreography and flourishing that we're doing, which we, try to make as tight as we can. It's really hard to do when you're not in person to play off of one another and actually take cues from what everybody else is doing. What we basically did since March was we met weekly on Zoom, live on Zoom. And I know that a lot of other members of our, like the snare corps and the pipe corps in our bands, they each would meet and sort of play all together on Zoom. So one person would be playing and everybody else would be playing along at home on mute. That's a lot harder to do, we found, as a midsection, because, if I basically had, Ashlyn, and it was just like, Ashlyn, put your recording on, play your note for the whole MSR, and we'll all listen to you. It's very, very time consuming for just like her to basically, play her note and then wait 8 more bars and then play a triplet. Yeah.
You don't have the context for it. I mean, you're absolutely right. It's one thing to have, someone in the band, right, play us the 4/4 marches, and the drum corps can follow along and the pipe section can follow along. Much more difficult for the midsection, even doing it vice versa. And we had, days where we would get lead drummer Tom to play through, say, the 6/8 marches. And even if he just played the drum score, the pipe section could play along and follow along. And it sort of, at least those two things kind of make sense together in context. But again, with the midsection, like, it needs all of you to fill in the parts. So
yeah. I kind of found it like pretty difficult to get in the groove and really like play the part like as it's supposed to be played when you're not in the middle of the band. In my case, as the bass drummer, it's much more difficult just to have 2 headphones in your ears than be like immersed in the sound.
And you don't have any of the visual cues because everything's delayed as well. So yeah, so we found that the types of things that seemed to work for other members of the band didn't work as well for us. It was still valuable for us to meet and talk about things and potentially go through like, okay, so this is what I mean in the music when I wrote this, because there's some nuance that you just can't capture, especially with flourish, like descriptions of flourishes. But we found that synchronous band practice, which is what I call sort of everybody playing the same thing at the same time on Zoom, wasn't as effective for us as asynchronous practicing, where we would just say, okay, we're gonna do a recording of the march from the MSR. Everybody record yourself playing it. And then I actually had to learn a lot of new skills that over the past 8 months. And I was very, very happy to have Jamie, who actually had a lot of these skills already, who helped me pick things up along the way. But we basically merged all the overlaid all the audio recordings, and then also merged all the videos so that we had them all synchronized and everybody playing at the same time, and you could hear everything together. So everybody would sort of have a deadline to submit their recordings, and then we would watch like the compiled product at band practice ourselves, and then sort of talk about like, okay, you know, Kate, like, well, I would say like, oh, I noticed that I'm actually doing that flourish differently than everybody else. And I found that was like, it was really hard at first because I think most of us aren't used to watching videos of ourselves. I know that I'm not the only one that had difficulty with that. Megan's laughing. But I think it really, like, once we sort of got over the hump of actually making videos and sharing videos, it was really, really interesting to sort of, to realize that, you know, there were some flourishes that like, I didn't realize that somebody was doing it slightly differently than the way that I do it. And it made it easier to get everybody, at least try to discuss how to get everybody doing it the same. I think some of it is a lot more time efficient in person, but there were some aspects of it that, you know, we don't usually see all of us from the front playing our parts.
So when it was sort of decided and became apparent that, okay, we're going to try making videos every week, and you would be sort of listening through to the medley or the MSR or 4/4, 3/4, 6/8, whatever you were working on, and making a video of yourself, what kind of challenges, like Kate, you mentioned watching videos of yourself is weird if you're not used to doing it, but even just, you know, did you have everyone use headphones and then play along to it, so all you heard was the tenor track, or did you have the backing track in the video audio to kind of see how it synced up as well? And
Jamie, you definitely spearheaded, like you were like, this is possible and I know how to do it. So it would be great to have your input on that, if you don't mind.
So basically what I did is I gave people the option. Either you could send me a video of one take of you doing your recording and wearing headphones so that all I get is the tenor track, or you can send it as 2 separate files. So you would basically make one recording like that and it would just be an audio file, and then you would do another recording with the pipe or snare drum recording in the background doing the flourishes.
let me ask Megan, Ashlyn, Liam, Marin, how did you guys find that? Like, what option did you pick to start with, and had you made videos before, or was it brand new?
Well, for the videos, it was tough. I live in a smaller house with 3 other people, so finding the space was difficult. And then when I did find the space, I was like right up on my camera, and it was dark, and so there was like a lot of learning going on. But I think for me, it was easier to just do 2 like groups. I don't know what everyone else was doing.
I know when I was doing my videos, I was using so many different methods of taking them. First, I had an actual Nikon on a tripod, and then I was using my phone stacked up on bricks to get it to the right height, just because it was easier to send, and then to upload it instantly instead of having to download it onto my laptop and then make sure the file size was right and upload it.
I also used my phone, and I just used earphones and then sent a recording of just the bass part.
And recording a bass part on a bass drum part on a cell phone, like, how did you find that audio turned out? Like, did you really have to play around with the placement of the cell phone, or were you able to hear things clearly enough in the files?
In the beginning, I had it facing the skin, like in the middle, as best as we could, and then between Jamie and Kate and I, we kind of decided that we were going to put it in front of the shell of the drum, like near the air hole, and then that wasn't much better, so I think I ended up going with in the middle of the skin. But in the end, it didn't really convey the sound, as well as it does in person.
I'm gonna throw to Marin, who's on her phone, see if she's there. And what were your thoughts about making the videos, Maren? Had you done it before, or how did you go about making yours?
It was my first time recording myself for that type of thing, and I honestly found it very stressful. And like, I could play the music fine with the camera off, and then when the camera went on, it just got stressed. So it was a learning curve for me to learn how to do it without letting my stress take over.
So with that, and I mean, because what you're saying, I hear so many times from so many people. You know, you ask anyone to send you a recording, and I have a lot of students that'll stress out about it at first. And did it get easier for you? Were you did you get to a point where you're like, oh, you know, I've been sending these in every single week, and if there's a bit of a mistake in it, that, you know, it's okay. It's about that learning process of it. Did it get easier as it went, or was there always a little bit of an edge as soon as you hit that red record button?
For me, there always was a bit of a stress factor, but it did definitely get easier. Like, it took me less and less time to film each video from like week to week even, because I didn't have to record it as many times.
Nice, yeah. And let me pose this question to everybody here. Over the course of this process, did you get better as players?
Yeah, I think even as a core, I think that if we were meeting consistently in person, there is probably a different level of achievement we would have reached. Like the recordings that we've done, they're like the MSR we just watched and the medley that we'll watch in a little bit. They're not like perfect performances, but they're really good. They're really, really good, especially considering that some of the music we didn't actually meet in person at all to go over. Like we learned it entirely at a distance, which is really challenging. And I know that, I mean, I personally ended up stepping in on a couple of the parts because of players in the band that we had parts written for that needed to step away because it just wasn't, summer, COVID, all the things were just, it just wasn't working. So that was an interesting thing for me too, because I started off the season just sort of filling in parts at band practice, working with different grades of bands, and I ended up sort of transitioning into playing two different parts.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's remarkable, and that's something that I was unaware of, is that you guys learned parts of the music, learned entire tunes and things without ever being able to be in the same room together. And, you know, from the perspective of being an ensemble that relies on being in the same room and playing together, I think that's pretty cool. It's been enlightening for me to hear from each of you, because I think with the videos, that's a unique thing that the midsection did. Certainly in the pipe section and the snare core, you know, we met every week on Zoom, and we had people send us you know, audio recordings, but there was no video aspect of it, or trying to kind of line things up and see how closely people are actually playing to the bed tracks or the backing tracks that the leadership team has made. So I think that's kind of a segue into what we're about to cut to, which is our medley video. And I know for the medley video, I recorded a bagpipe part, so got my pipe up and going, and made a recording at the tempos for the midsection. And we actually had both Tom, our lead drummer, and my dad, John Bridge, come in, and we had the opportunity to do a socially distanced recording here at my work, which is Jam School, in a big theater. And Tom and my dad, you know, masks and socially distanced up on the stage, which is just the other side of my camera here. And we were able to record the snare part with both the lead and the chips and the ins and outs at the same time. So with that medley recording, you guys had a properly pitched Highland bagpipe and the snare drums with the lead and the chips to include with the midsection stuff. And Jamie, I know you were involved so much in putting all of that together. So do you want to say a couple things before we cut to the medley video?
I guess I would just say that I had a lot of fun making this medley video because unlike the MSR video, the medley has a little bit more of like an orchestration around it for flourishes. So I definitely played a little bit to that in the video. And then I would say that I'm really proud of this video, seeing as the medley was new this year. And
Brand new for everybody, yeah.
Yeah, and we learned, I would say, over half of this medley socially distanced.
Wow.
Completely. Like we got the music maybe a month or two before the pandemic hit, maybe a month before the pandemic hit, but then we were only focusing on certain things at band practice, right? Like we just never really got to touch on it and like really kind of
I had no idea this was gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely I'm really proud of the outcome of this video.
Nice, yeah. And I guess with that said, I'm gonna say thanks to everyone for joining us here today to have a chat about what we've done over the last many months, and kind of I think what we're going to continue to do for short-term future at least. And we'll cut to this medley video, and we hope that you all enjoy.
Ready, for the right, quick, march.